Good morning. My name is Jacob Folger and I'm an artist and a sculptor, and today I'm going to show you how to take some rocks and some moss and some soil and also some polymer clay. This is Sculpting brand, which I like. I like it. I've worked with it a bit and it's good stuff. I used the Sculpting 3. This is black. I use black a lot because of the finishes I do. It's a base coat for a lot of the finishes I do. So that's what we're going to use today. This is a pound. I've also seen it in 8-ounce packages and 2-ounce packages. And this at the local art store is around $14, but I've seen it online for as little as $8, so you might want to shop around. As far as the moss goes, we're going to use this moss that I collected from the yard around my house. It naturally grows there. And I think this is low drought, meaning that it won't dry out very easily. And the reason why I believe that is because sometimes it doesn't rain for several days, but it's still lively and healthy. So we'll use that today. We're going to use a rock that I found at the creek. You can find rocks at the park, out in the woods, at the creek, at the river, at the lake. So just look around. I think this is an interesting shape, so we're going to be using that. I've also got a few pebbles here that we may or may not use, and I also have some sand that I got at my hardware store. All it is play sand. We may use that. We're going to be creating as we go here, and hopefully we'll come out with a really nice little moss garden using polymer clay and these elements here. So we'll go ahead and get started. The first thing you're going to have to do is, let me just tell you about this product here. This is Golden's Medium's GAC 100 multi-purpose acrylic polymer. I'm going to provide a list of products that we'll be using on the video here. You might want to pause it when it comes on because it only plays for about 7 seconds. And then you can put together your list of things. I also recommend watching the video through once before getting started on this project. What we do with this is we paint all the stones with a brush about this size here, and I've already painted them, so we can just keep moving along. And also a reminder to clean your brush out, and you can use a little cap like this to put the acrylic in. I wouldn't recommend filling it up. It probably won't take much to do the stones. I only used a tiny bit and I still have some left over, so if you fill it up then you're going to have to pour it back into the bottle rather than waste the time, eh? Okay, and then have a can of water nearby and stick your brush in that and dab it into the water after you use the acrylic. If you let the acrylic dry on the brush, it'll ruin it. And we have a few tools here. Again, everything is going to be on the source list that I provide with the video, but just some basic wood or plastic sculpting tools. A paintbrush, a small paintbrush. I tend to use both ends of the brush, this end and this end. And a pair of scissors is helpful also. But pretty much minimal tools, mostly our hands. That's what we'll be using today. So we're going to get started with this project. We're going to make a tree first off. So I'll tear off a piece of clay here. This clay will get up under your fingernails, and you'll have to, of course, clean them just like you would with any kind of material. But it doesn't really stick or mess up your hands too much, I've noticed. And whenever we work with this clay, we want to make sure that we knead it and kind of warm it up and get it softer. And then that will adhere better to the stone and that sort of thing. So you can, after you knead it a little bit, you can roll it like this between the palms of your hands And then you can roll it to and fro like this to elongate it, like that. And then you can flare out the base a little bit, like that. And you can take your scissors and you can clip it like that, so that it has three little roots coming down. That's what I'm doing here, is I'm making the roots. I just pinch them to make the roots, you know, the shape of roots. Okay, so we're basically just pinching the clay, the little tines we made for the roots, and then you can squeeze it and just try to make it uniform going up, so it just looks nice and natural and that sort of thing. And then you can take your scissors again and snip it twice, like we did the roots, like that. And these will be the branches that will hold the moss. Now let's talk about the moss for a minute while I'm doing this. You know, moss needs to be moist. It likes to be moist. It can dry out, but it needs, you know, you can't let it dry out forever. So if you're not going to be around to maintain it, you might want to, you know, get dried moss or something like that. Now you can get moss online if you can't find it locally. Some people live in desert climates and that sort of thing, and if that's the case, you're going to probably want to you know, get it online, or use dry moss, which you also can get online, or naturally preserved moss. So basically we have this now. So what I'm going to do, let me raise the camera up here so you can see this. I want to put this tree at the top here, and we have the basic shape, and once we have it on the rock, we can do some more sculpting with it. So what I do is, when I put it on the rock, I want to move it while pushing down gently, so I don't misshapen the tree. I want to push down on the rock. And you can do that also with the roots, like this. If you squeeze the root slightly between your two fingers, it won't flatten out when you press it down. It becomes like, almost has that ridge on there. And you really want it, on there very sturdy so it doesn't fall off. And it just looks like the tree is growing out of the rock. And you can also, to add life and realism to the tree, you can lean it, twist it like that, and that kind of adds to the lifelikeness of it. The other thing you can do is you can take a tool like this, or a knife or something like that, and you can carve in little lines to give it the appearance of bark, or, you know, the texture of a tree, like that. All you have to do is hold your finger behind the tree just to support it, so that it doesn't jump all around when you're putting the lines in. You take it right down to the roots, like that. You can put your fingers behind the branches and do the same to stop the branches from moving around while you're putting the lines in. Like that. And another thing that you can do, which I often do, is I'll put in a knot hole on the tree, just to give it some more interest. And a lot of people, when they see my trees, I do that frequently enough, and they always compliment me and say, "Wow, that's a nice tree." So there we go. So it's kind of, he's comfortably sitting there. Another thing you can do with your tree is where the roots come down is you can just add a little bit of a line there, so it kind of gives some definition where the roots are coming out of the bottom of the tree, like that. This kind of adds to the lifelikeness of it. Okay, so we got that, and now what we're going to do is we have to have some kind of way of supporting the moss that's going to be on the rock. So what I'm going to do is get myself a chunk of clay here off camera, just because there's not a lot of room in the area of the filming part. So I'm just going to get myself a piece of clay like this, and I'm going to knead it. As I always say, you always have to knead it. Get it nice and soft, and I call it warm. I don't know if that's my terminology, is terminology that I make up because I'm a self-taught artist. Nobody told me anything. I just do it. I do it because I love it and because I'm driven to do it, and that's why I sculpt in the first place. So once and I'll do all kinds of art, actually, including this, which is a form of sculpture, I guess you would say. So basically I'm creating a noodle of clay, and I'm just gonna create a lip coming down around the stone to support the moss and soil and that sort of thing. And I'll bring the camera back down so you can see what I'm doing here. And this is going to kind of be like a little wall, so to speak. We'll get a little bit more. And this, if you sealed the rock good, pretty much just one coat. If you sealed it pretty good, I'm gonna, you would be able to. I was gonna take that off camera and do it, but I want to show you so you can see how I'm kneading it. If you sealed it well, this is gonna bond really well to the rock. So we just want to squeeze it until it becomes a noodle about the length we need. And I'll just put it there, sort of blend it in. Just snip it off there with my finger. And then just kind of pinch it up so we make it a little bit higher there. There we go. And like that. Kind of bonding it to the stone, pressing in and squeezing at the same time so we don't flatten it. We don't want to flatten it. Now if you use gray or something like that, maybe that would work better for you if you prefer gray. They have different colors. It comes in different colors. And now I'm just kind of blending it into the stone a little bit so it's more sealed. Now, clay. Moss can grow on a vertical surface like this. It grows on rocks all the time and trees and everything else. So it's not going to have a problem on this little hill that we've got on this rock. And then you should maybe look at it from the other side and just blend it in there as well, just so it's more like part of the rock. And then what you can do is you can add texture to it. You can do it, I'll show you in a minute. Let's just get this on here the best we can. There we go. You can take just about any kind of tool, and you can take just about any kind of tool and just stipple it, you know, to give it the appearance, or close to the appearance of the rock. You know, sometimes you have to play with it. You know, texture is really an important thing with sculpture, because it makes things look, you know, if you take your time with it, it makes it look better and more artistic. So and so we got this here. Just go around and get it the rest of the way here. Okay, now let's just touch on this a little bit. So we've got the tree on there. This thing obscured one of the roots, and I really like to have at least 2 roots coming down in, so you can always add a root, knead your clay, and put a root in like that. If you want, you know, you don't have to do that, but for me, I want to do that. And then I'll go ahead and add the lines that I had in there before for the other parts. Okay, so now you want to go around, make sure that you got your texture going all the way around. You got the roots the way you like them. You got the curve of the tree the way you like it. Let's talk about that for a minute. Just look how that tree is just sort of like, wow. It's really relaxed. It has nice flowing lines. It's going to look like a little bonsai tree. At least that's what I'm trying to achieve, and hopefully you're going to do something like that. Take your time with it. Look at this video closely, look at the images, and try to get something like that if you can. And then what I do, and you don't have to do this, but there's a you can get gold powder like this here. I generally do it a lot on my trees. And what I do basically is I dip my finger into the powder, and then I swirl it just for a second with my thumb, so that it kind of finely grinds it down, so it's really smooth. And then I just highlight the tree with that powder. You know, trees, they have a lot going on. Not only do they have the texture you know, from the bark and that sort of thing, but they have different colors, and the bronze, for me, it works for me. I like it. I like the way it looks. And that's on your source list, the bronze powder, gold. I call it bronze. I've been calling for bronze for years. I do use bronze, but it's really hard to find, and it's extremely expensive. I used to put it on source list for some of my videos, but people kept telling me that you can't buy it anymore. You have to buy it in large quantities. So I sort of stopped recommending it. But basically, it's just gold colored powder. The color I use happens to be just a little bit different and has a very appealing quality. You don't need much of this stuff. It will last for years. I make these, I do a lot of sculpture, a lot. I make sculptures all day long. and I use the powder a lot, and I've been using this lid that just had residue in it for almost 6 months. In other words, I haven't, you know, even replenished it from the jar. So I'm just saying, you know, you don't feel like you have to buy a lot of it. I'll give you a source of some decent material that you can use and get for very inexpensively, and you don't need much of it. And then also I'm going to maybe later on I might paint this whole rock black and do the whole thing in bronze, just because it may look kind of, you know, funny if it's not done that way. But I'm going to go ahead and do the bronze on the side wall as well. Now, if you touch the polymer clay too much, it'll wipe out that texture, and you might have to go back and touch it up. And you can touch it up with the bronze on. You may have to touch up the bronze then a little bit, but it's not that big of a deal, really. So and I did obscure the texture a little bit when I was touching it. And then if you want to sign it, when the camera was off and I was downloading the images, I signed it here, right there on the root. I don't know if you can see that. It's upside down. So now we want to cook it. And you do want to follow the instructions on the packaging just to make sure that everything is right. But it's going to be, they say for the Sculpey, for every 1/4 inch of mass, 15 minutes in the oven at 275 degrees. And that's just a conventional oven. So so we're going to do that. And the other thing I want to do beforehand, and this is just mostly an experiment, I want to take a couple stones that I had treated earlier when I did the big stone here, and I want to put them inside here so that the moss will go around them. I'm not sure how I'm going to do that, but I want to go ahead and do it before I cook it. So I just take a ball of clay. I knead it really well. I've got bronze on my fingers, of course, so it's turning bronze, but I don't think that will matter much. I put it on the base of the rock, and I'm going to just put a rock right there. Let's see how that works. I do know that the polymer clay can be used that way. It didn't work very well, I think, because of the bronze. I'm going to wipe the bronze off my fingers, but I do know it can be done that way to hold stones and that sort of thing, because I've done it before. So I'm going to put it on there again and just sort of glue it into place. And see, then the moss will go around that. So I think that that will look pretty neat. And I'm going to do it again. I treated these. Remember, I treated these pebbles earlier. And let's see. I'm going to put it. I'm going to put it right there, I think. I might move this one further down. This is kind of how art is, folks. You know, you try things and see how they work. So there we go, and now we're going to cook it. I'm going to cook this piece for about 40 minutes, and then I'll be back. Okay, we're back, and we have our little sculpture here now. It is still a little bit warm. By the way, the polymer clay itself, it cools fairly rapidly, but stones, they do not. They take a long time, sometimes, you know, several hours even. No kidding. They will retain heat. So, and one thing I wanted to tell you was that you want to put the sculpture, if it's going to have polymer clay in contact with something. I use a regular ceramic plate that has glaze on it, just like a plate that you would have, you know, in your kitchen. That's what I use to cook on, cook my polymer clay on, and I don't have any problem with the polymer sticking to it when it's cooking. So let's go ahead and get started. I want to first put a little bit of soil in. Soil is not necessary for moss, but it retains moisture, and so that's why I use it. I try to use a little bit of soil when I'm putting moss somewhere, because you know, moss likes moisture. So I can't put too much in here because it's just not deep enough, but I'm going to go ahead and put some in. And what I did was I actually moistened the soil earlier, so that it would you know, be a little bit easier to mold into the stone here. Let's put a little bit around here, and that will just help the moss retain moisture better. Okay. And soil, by the way, if it was me, I would not go buy soil. I would go find a big old tree and dig up underneath it. And it's going to be some nice, healthy, rich soil like this that you see here. And then just lay the moss in. I wouldn't worry about so much as, you know, trying to get one piece to cover the whole thing. Just do it like that, lay it in, and clean off any pine needles or whatever that might be in the moss. Just press it into place. I don't know if I'd press it in real hard or anything. I'd try to let it be fluffy as it wants to be. You know, an afterthought, you could probably allow for more of the roots to be taller, so you could, you know, work around them without obscuring the roots. That's an afterthought. And we got this rock here. We want to make sure we can see it. A taller rock might have been better for there. There we go. Get some of this over here. This is a little bit different. This looks like little ferns, actually. And right down here. And then, you know, if you gave that for a couple days to settle, it would probably start moving in and growing in pretty nicely. Moss does grow slowly, but it would become more fluffy, and as long as you keep it moist. And then I'm just going to take a piece like this and just tearing off the little bits there. Just going to place it on top here and just kind of fold it like this with my hand to get it to look more natural. You can take a pair of scissors. It might be better to actually take a pair of scissors to trim it rather than trying to pull it off, because you might find that you're just pulling it apart more than anything. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. I like that. It's just, I think the one thing is the roots. But see, I could take the moss off and sculpt new roots and put it in the oven for another 15 minutes, and you can do that with polymer clay. So there it is. And I have a friend in Romania that I met through YouTube. He watches my videos and has learned how to sculpt from watching my videos. And we became friends, and he's very interested in these like dioramas where you make things like this, where it's nature and that sort of thing. And he actually asked me for a video like this, and he actually inspires me to do videos. I've done a couple actually with him in mind when I was doing them. So I do recommend that if you have an idea for something or you want to learn how to make something, get a message to me, either email me, you can find my email on my channel page, or you can just leave a comment and say, I'd like to have this. I'm very responsive and try to help you out, try to make something. So that's basically how you do it, and thank you for watching. My name again is Jacob Folger, and if you like this kind of content, I have over 300 videos teaching all kinds of things, especially sculpture, and just subscribe to my channel. It's free, it's painless. You basically just get a notice when I do a new video that's in your channels and under your subscriptions. And I do thank you for watching. Please hit the like button, leave a comment, tell me what you'd like to make, and I will help you make it. I'll make a video and help you make it. And thanks again for watching. Have a great day. Bye-bye.